Skyrim is full of settlements that demand your attention. Whiterun welcomes you into its bustling market and towering Dragon Reach. Riften draws you into webs of crime and corruption. Even the smallest villages, Riverwood, Iverstead, Dawnstar, call to you with quests, rumours or troubled locals. And then there's Stone Hills, a tiny mining hamlet nestled in the snow, little more than a cluster of wooden huts beside the yawning mouth of Rockwallow Mine. Stone Hills is one of Skyrim's most obscure settlements. Many players will never see it, others will pass through it once, grab a side bounty and never return. But for those who linger, Stone Hills reveals itself as one of the loneliest places in all of Skyrim. A community defined not by what it has, but by what it lacks. No inn, no shops, no quests of consequence. Only miners, their shacks, and the endless dark of the mine. It is a settlement that feels less like a town and more like a half-forgotten outpost clinging to survival. And in that way, it becomes one of the most fascinating places in Skyrim to examine. Stone Hills sits in the frozen wilds of Jarlmarch, not far from Morthal. But while Morthal, for all its tragedy and swampy gloom, serves as a capital town with guards, a Jarl and quests, Stone Hills feels more like a side note on the map. Its structures are bare, a few small homes, a smithing area, and the mine itself. There is no tavern to welcome travellers, no temple to gather the faithful, no market to trade. For a settlement that supports a working mine, it feels strangely empty of life and amenities. This emptiness immediately marks Stone Hills as different. It does not pretend to be a full town, nor does it reach for the narrative significance of other mining communities like Shaw's Stone or Darkwater Crossing. But even then, those two places also feel a little left out of Skyrim's full main story. Instead, it sits in silence, a quiet cluster of families with little to offer the Dragonborn except awe and bleak conversation. At the centre of Stone Hills lies Rockwallow Mine, the source of its existence and the reason anyone lives here at all. Like many mines in Skyrim, it provides ore, in this case iron, that fuels the province's economy and supplies weapons for the Civil War. But unlike other mines, Rockwallow Mine feels strangely hollow. There is little danger inside, no dramatic backstory of bandits or dragger, no hidden Daedric artifact waiting to be uncovered. It is simply a mine, dark, cold, repetitive. For the Dragonborn who spend so much of their journey uncovering secrets and slaying monsters, Rockwallow Mine is startling in its banality, and yet that very ordinariness makes it feel lonelier than any Dragger crypt. At least the crypts tell stories of ancient Nords and forgotten kings. Here the story is simply the day-to-day grind of miners who will never be remembered. Stone Hills is home to a small handful of NPCs, most notably Sorli the Builder and her husband Pacta. Together they oversee the mine's operations on behalf of the Empire, ensuring the ore keeps flowing to supply the war effort. Alongside them live their children and a few workers scraping out an existence in the harsh wilderness. Unlike other settlements, the people here have little to say. They don't offer radiant quests beyond minor work, they don't share rumours of grand adventures, and they certainly don't dream of anything else beyond survival. They live day after day by the rhythm of the mine. This lack of depth can feel disappointing to the player, but it also creates a powerful sense of realism. Not every Skyrim villager is tied into the threads of destiny. Some are simply people living unremarkable lives, forgotten by the world outside their little hamlet. And in Stone Hills, that is precisely the tragedy. These miners exist, but they will never matter. Despite its obscurity, Stone Hills does brush against the great events of Skyrim through the Civil War questline. Depending on which side the Dragonborn supports, control of Rockwallow Mine can shift. The Empire values it as a resource, the Stormcloaks may fight for it in turn. Sorli and Pacta themselves voice loyalty to the Empire, sending ore to Solitude to feed General Tullius's war machine. But even here, Stone Hills feels incidental. The mine matters only as a line of supply, not as a place where lives and struggles unfold. It is reduced to a resource point on a strategic map, stripped of its individuality. This transforms Stone Hills into a haunting metaphor. Even when it is noticed not for its people, but for what can be extracted from its earth. Stone Hills becomes even more striking when compared to Skyrim's other mining communities, like Shaw's Stone, Darkwater Crossing, and Karth Wasteland. Shaw's Stone has ties to the Thieves' Guild and a mine contested by dangerous enemies. Darkwater Crossing is defined by tragedy with survivors of Helgen trying to rebuild their lives. Karth Wasteland serves as a flashpoint for the Silverblood family's ruthless expansion. Each of these towns, though small, are still given some sort of narrative weight, even though they're still lonely in themselves. Their minds tell small stories of exploitation, danger, or recovery. Stone Hills, in contrast, feels like a mine stripped of a story. Its only identity is labour and silence. It does not cry out for help. It does not beg the Dragonborn to intervene. It simply exists, lonely and untouched. Perhaps the most powerful feature of Stone Hills is its silence. There are no bustling streets, no chatter of markets, no drunken songs from taverns. The soundscape is reduced to the crunch of snow, the crack of a pickaxe in the mine, and the occasional sigh of wind across the frozen tundra. For players who stumble upon it, this silence can feel almost unsettling. Skyrim is a world brimming with constant noise, dragons roaring, Nords brawling, and merchants shouting. To enter Stone Hills is to enter a pocket of emptiness. That emptiness in turn makes it one of the most loneliest places in Skyrim. Stone Hills occupies a peculiar role in Skyrim's design. It is a named settlement large enough to appear on the map, with unique NPCs and a functioning economy, and yet it is treated with the narrative weight of an unmarked farmstead. In many ways, it feels like content the developers left unfinished. A town sketched onto the canvas but never really painted, with a lot of quests or stories. The fact that it exists at all feels kind of accidental, as though Bethesda couldn't quite decide whether to make it a real village or leave it as a background dressing. This in-betweenness contributes to its air of forgotten loneliness. It is a town that barely exists in the eyes of both the world and the player. When the Dragonborn enters Stone Hills, what do they really feel? For many, it's a brief stop. Perhaps a bounty quest sends them here, or they wander by on the way to another destination. The player mines a little ore, speaks briefly with Sorley or Pacta, and then moves on. But for those who pause, the atmosphere begins to seep in. The stark snowfields, the small homes huddled together, the endless grind of the mine, and the lack of anything beyond survival. The result is a settlement that feels profoundly lonely to inhabit. Players often leave quickly not because of the danger, but because there is simply nothing to hold them here. When all is said and done, Rockwallow Mine and Stone Hills embodies the concept of loneliness more than almost any other place in Skyrim. It is not lonely because of ghosts or tragedy. It is lonely because of neglect. Neglect by the developers, neglect by the game's narrative, and neglect by the Dragonborn, who rarely stops long enough to notice it. It is a mine that exists without purpose beyond labour, and a town without identity beyond its ore, and a community without recognition beyond a single line on the map. In a game filled with legends, gods, dragons, and quests of world-shattering scale, Stone Hills is a reminder of the other side of Skyrim, the forgotten lives of those who mine, survive, and pass into obscurity without ever shaping history. Stone Hills may be the loneliest mine in Skyrim, but that loneliness makes it strangely powerful. It reminds us that not every settlement is destined for greatness. Some exist only to endure. Some communities live and die without songs or sagas, and their work is swallowed by the silence of snow. In this way, Stone Hills feels almost more real than the grander cities of Skyrim. It is not a stage for adventure, it is a background detail of a world that does not revolve around the Dragonborn. And perhaps that, more than anything, is why it lingers in the minds of players who do stop to notice it. Stone Hills stands eternal, a lonely hamlet in the snow, clinging to its mine, forgotten by all, but the pickaxes echoing in the dark.